Meeting to order. You have a copy of the minutes. Any additions or corrections?
Motion for approval.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Do you have a copy of the transfers? Any questions on those? If not, I'm entertaining a motion they be approved. Bland, Mr. Hughes. All in favor? It's unanimous. Do you have a copy of the bills? There's one hand check that was written in today. It's to Walmart out of the general fund, $737.89. The rest of them you have in front of you.
Motion to approve the bills.
Prather,
Second.
all in favor?
Judge, I'm going to recuse myself from any Parks and Rec that may be in there, please.
We got you. The Georgetown Scott County Regional Airport has turned in their district summary budget, really, and they're required to turn those into the court now, so that needs to be noted into the minutes. And Stacy, you have a copy of it, don't you? If anybody wants to see it, but I think our only requirement is to put it in that it has been turned in. And we have Mr. Brett Blair from District 7 bringing us some good news, I hope.
That's good news. Everybody should have a couple pieces of paper in front of them. One's an information sheet which talks about our rural secondary program. I'd be happy to address any questions if you have any on it. The second page is what I'm bringing to you tonight. It's got routes and money on the front page, and it's got a map on the back. Looking at the front page, you see the last 3 fiscal years. The blue diamonds indicate what we've authorized in the past 2 fiscal years. The fiscal year 14 projects that we authorized last year, they've not been paved yet. They have until June 30th of 2014 to get that done, and they will. What I'm bringing before you tonight is for fiscal year 15, which starts July 1 of this year and goes through June 30th of 2015. That orange diamond recommendation is for, at the top, the balance for RS projects says $603,000, has to be used on the state roads. Our engineers have made their best recommendation, and we've met with the judge in advance and the road supervisor, and we would like to recommend resurfacing a 5.5 mile section of Kentucky 620, which is Burton Pike and Biddle Pike, and additionally a 2.4 mile section of Kentucky 922 Muddy Ford Road. Additionally, you have money that is set aside for flex funds. It's 10% of the initial allotment that goes to Scott County. It's $109,000. You can put it back on a state road, or you can keep it to use for county roads. Should you put it on a state road, the green diamond is our recommendation, and that's Kentucky 32, almost 1.5 mile section of Long Lick Pike, and it turns into Josephine Road. If you turn to the back, then I have circled in orange the 2 road segments that you have to use the RS money for, and I've circled in green the segment that, should you put the flex funds back on a state road, that's where we would put it. The decision I'm asking tonight is your acceptance of the orange diamond as the roads that we will resurface with the state funds, and yes or no, would you like to put your flex funds back onto a state route?
JR and I met with Brett and the rest of the crew, and our recommendation is to take the 620 and the 922, and we'll keep the 109,000 for county roads. That would be our recommendation. You need a motion to that effect, correct?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
So, Judge, I'd like to check no, sign and date.
And we keep your.
I'll take it back and get it started with Frank.
I noticed on Ledger.
Randy bid
Yeah.
and working overtime this year.
Yes, he has.
Nice.
Thanks, Brett.
Can't imagine.
It's been a rough year.
Brett, I had a question. Last year, when y'all were here, I asked about 1874 Miners Branch Road, and I thought it was gonna be put in line for some attention, because it's really bad. It's, do you know any?
Okay, I'm gonna get Corey. 1874 Miners Branch Road.
We have, it's just under a mile that is gonna be paved this year. And then we're gonna look into getting more funding to continue on. But I was given X number of dollars this year and said pay as much as you can, and so it ended up being just under a mile, so.
But that 1 mile will, the worst mile of it will get attention this year?
Well, it's depending on what you consider the worst. of
Yeah,
it.
well.
We're starting on the far end of 227.
Okay.
Coming in, just basically because, that's the way they'll be hauling the asphalt in. We didn't wanna haul over a new mat, so, that was the main consideration there. The hope is we'll get all the way around eventually. But it's coming, should be this spring.
Is it an RS road?
No, it's, supplemental.
Okay, just a little further explanation. The money that's here is only for the roads that are in yellow on the map. And so Corey has access to a different set of funds that take care of that road.
Any other questions for Brett while he's here?
One question real quick. 1973, I worked Pike where we did strip patching and whatnot. Been a lot of complaints, and I know you've been hearing about it. And just to satisfy some of the people out there and whatnot, is there any consideration, maybe some, I know the snow plows have gotten into that and they've made it pretty rough. Is anything gonna happen to that this year you're aware of?
Well, the snowplows helped us, I guess, smooth out some of those edges a little bit, but, as we get strip patching money, hopefully we can connect some of those.
One reason why I met that guy standing in the door with the pistol on his side, he lives right out there where all that's going on.
That might speed things up. But no, we'll get some work out there.
Thanks.
But
Appreciate it.
Additional work.
Any other questions?
Just real briefly, Brett, tough winter, roads have suffered severely. Will there be enough manpower and material locally to try to patch as best we can those areas of roads that aren't gonna be repaved, but, you know, we've got a lot of damage, state roads, county roads.
Does everybody know Corey Wilson that I keep referring to? He's he's the engineer over Scott and Woodford County, and so that's the reason I keep deferring.
Pothole patches, we've got some breaks, some pretty severe breaks in different roads. The potholes are quite severe all over the county.
Yeah, we've been trying to hit those pretty hard. A couple weeks ago, we came in on a Saturday and worked 2 crews trying to do some work on that. I don't know if you noticed this week, Alameda State had 2 lanes closed. We're trying to work on that a little bit, but we've been trying to hit it hard. That's been a focus. And that's really all we can do. The best thing I can recommend is y'all pass those, you know, if you notice something, pass those along to us there in the section office. And, sometimes it's the more eyes and ears we can put on this stuff, the better off, and we'll know about it sooner. So, if you have anything specific, let us know.
It's not specifically listed here, but with each type of road, then they set aside a significant pot of money for maintenance issues, such as pothole repair. And so they try to set aside enough to handle excessive circumstances
This may
such
be
as this
a
year's.
banner year for it,
It
though.
could be.
As all of us who have state roads in our district can attest. We get mentioned to us quite often that they'd like to see something. And we understand completely, the weather has not allowed you to do the work that we need to do, but hopefully, as the weather breaks, we can look forward to working with you all on that.
Like I
Well-
said, we definitely appreciate when you pass those on to us too, so.
Yeah.
Feel free to do that. Give us a call, email us, whatever you want to do.
What
Yeah.
works best, if you'll let Jared know, anybody, and Jared emails them, and they follow up on them right away. Because he gets some calls, but that's a good way
They've got an
to.
online reporting system, report a pothole.
Right, right, yeah. And I know Jared and the judge stay in pretty good contact with Steve Farmer, who's the branch manager over your counties, and he'll make sure everything gets the attention that it needs.
Yeah, some of those, when they get to be the size of a pickup truck, get folks' attention.
Bill, do you have a comment?
I just gonna comment, I've talked to some of the staff here locally that do some of that, and, they've always done a good job, and I've not went through Jared and them, but on a couple of occasions, I've just had an issue, and I've seen it, or somebody said something to me, and I've driven by and said something to them, and it's always been taken care of. Now, I don't know whether they did it, or, you know, got the person responsible for doing it, but, it's been taken care of, that's the important thing.
Anything else? Thank you, Brett.
Thanks for your time.
Thank all of you, appreciate it. Bob Wilhite is here with, Glenn's got the resolution in, but Bob wants to explain, I think, first, and then we'll go over the resolution.
Evening, thank you for letting me come before you tonight. I'm here to ask fiscal court's help on a resolution regarding two bills that are currently being circulated in Frankfurt. The first is House Bill 381. I'm asking for your support on House Bill 381, which will remove the private for-profit water utility board position from the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. We feel it is unreasonable to allow a private for-profit company to direct the allocation of public funds that they themselves do not qualify for. We feel that's simply bad public policy. This, by having a seat on the board, the for-profit company has an uneven playing field for city-owned utilities. We have a for-profit company in a position to determine when and where project monies are awarded or even stopping projects. The second bill is Senate Bill 152. I'm asking for you to oppose that bill. It has the potential to hurt many city-owned utilities that provide essential, low-cost, reliable, and efficient services to our local citizens. This bill would allow for the current value of assets to be included in the appraised value. The Public Service Commission does not currently allow depreciated assets to be included in the rate base. The draft legislation provides for 3 different appraisals by the city, the purchaser, in this situation Kentucky American, and a third appraiser chosen by both parties. This legislation contains no definition of an appraiser or their qualifications. Offering an artificially inflated price is very attractive with so many unfunded mandates facing cities today. The cost of the system purchase at the higher price will, of course, have to be spread back into the rates that all Kentucky American customers pay, which would directly impact Scott County citizens in the eastern part of the county, and would also impact the wholesale water rate when we have to buy water for Kentucky American. We feel this is a predatory bill, it's bad legislation, and we've been before. Of course, the water company has approved a similar resolution. The city council approved resolution Monday night. Scott County United approved a resolution last night, and now I'm here for the fiscal court asking you all to approve a similar resolution.
I'll let Glenn to read it, and then if there's questions, we'll go from there.
Stacy, I didn't have the number, but it looks like according to the agenda, it's 1402. Okay. It says, whereas small cities are the economic engines of this state, represent an important factor in economic development for the Commonwealth, whereas a critical factor in the attraction of economic development, industry, and investment to Kentucky is the low cost of utility services. Whereas unlike a for-profit company, city-owned utilities reinvest profits to keep the rates low and improve the infrastructure. Whereas the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority was created in 1988 to provide the mechanism for funding construction of local public projects. Whereas House Bill 381 removes the private for-profit water utility board position from the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. Whereas Senate Bill 152 has the potential to hurt many city-owned utilities that provide essential, low-cost, reliable, and efficient services to the local citizens. Whereas the mission of the Kentucky Public Service Commission is to foster the provision of safe and reliable service at a reasonable price to the customers of jurisdictional